Cindy's Library. This is Cindy, and today we are going to talk about what I managed to read in the past a week or so. So let's get to it. For my book group, I read The Blue Castle by Montgomery. Let's see, this will be the fourth time I've read it, it looks like, which is amazing. So this is the story of Valency, and she is turning 29, which of course back in the 1920s. I'm pretty sure the 1920s is when it was set. She is about to be considered an old maid, where still she does not have a very helpful family at all. In fact, she has very little of joy or enjoyment in her life. But all of that changes one day when she gets some life-changing news, and she decides she needs to make some changes. And we see what those changes are and how various people react to them. And it's very romantic and great. Next, I read Don Juan by Moliere. Don't think this is the original necessarily of the story, but one thing about Don Juan, at least in this version, he is completely unrepentant, and there are things that are very funny about it. It's also like watching a train wreck. I cannot deny that the ending is very fitting. Don Juan, well, according to this play anyways, he has to pay tribute to any beauty that he sees, and he has to conquer that beauty. And he'll go up to marriage, but unfortunately after marriage he kind of gets bored. It's the whole chase that excites him, and we get to see some of the consequences of that. And we also get to see him in the middle of, well, doing that. Then I read My Life in France by Julia Child with Alex Prud'homme. Not quite sure how to say that last name. And he was her grandson. I guess when she was in her late 80s, she finally did say, maybe I should write some of my story down. And so her grandson, I think he was already an author, agreed to help her with that. And this is the result, and it is quite wonderful. We don't get very much about her life before France, and especially her life before her marriage to Paul Child. We get enough, though, to get the general idea of things. But basically, she met Paul Child during World War II. They were both, I think it was the Army, and frequently worked together, and after the war decided to get married, and he ended up working in the diplomatic service, and so they ended up in France, and they were in France for 4.5 years, 5 years between two postings. Now, while in France as the diplomat's wife, Julia, she found she needed something to do, and she found that thing was French cooking. Completely changed her life. She learned from all of these great chefs. She went to cooking school actually in France. And then her big thing was translating everything that she learned about French cooking into terms that the average American housewife could understand and be successful with. So rather remarkable life. So glad I read it. It's interesting that I read it because last year I had a Julia Child's mystery and then a Julia Child historical fiction during World War II. So, next I read Unnatural Death by, by Dorothy L. Sayers. This is the third Lord Peter Wimsey mystery novel, and it is a good one. The actual mystery is rather baffling. You end up having deaths, and they are suspicious except for the fact that no one can figure out how the death itself is actually suspicious. It's other things around them that are suspicious. We also get introduced to Miss Clipson and the Cattery, a bunch of middle-aged spinsters who Lord Peter will call on um, for various assignments to help him in his detective work, because of course they're exactly the type of inoffensive, innocent-looking, gossipy person that people will ignore, kind of like Miss Marple. But yes, this all starts when Lord Peter and Inspector Parker, his great detective friend, well, inspector friend, I should say, uh, they're having lunch or dinner somewhere and they're talking, and Lord Peter's talking specifically about the danger of medical personnel trying to alert people to something wrong with the death, and they're overheard by a doctor who exactly this happened to. He tells his story. There's no sign of how death was caused aside from old age and cancer and such, but he suspects there's something not right. Parker is skeptical, but Lord Peter, he wants to investigate, and so he does. And like I said, he gets Miss Clemson involved. We have Bunter, of course, helping, and it is an excellent one. And while it is a wee bit early, since technically this ends in March, I did read and finish The Stillmeadow Sampler by Gladys Tabor, where she goes through the year starting in April and just talks about the seasons in her neighborhood and the type of activities, the things nature's doing, things like that in the countryside. I believe in Connecticut, somewhere in New England anyway. And it was just so lovely to go through the year with Gladys. I've got another book, and I'll probably be doing the same thing again because it was just so wonderful. So, finished up a fair amount this week, which is great. Made a tiny bit of progress on John Adams by David McCullough. I made more progress on the letters. I am approaching the 1/3 mark. I'll probably reach that by the end of this coming week or thereabouts. I am thinking. Beyond that, what else am I working on? Oh, I only have 3 stories left, I think, in the first Arsène Lupin book. He is a gentleman thief. So he will rob you blind, but if possible, he will be completely polite about it. And he certainly doesn't like violence or any unpleasantness like that involved in it. So I've been rather enjoying that. Let's see, what else have I been working on? Um, I got through, I think, the first 6 of the Brothers Karamazov last year. This is my second read, so I think I'd like to read that for Lent. We'll see if I can do that. Oh, and I made not as much progress as I should, but still some pretty decent progress listening to The Antiquary by uh, Sir Walter Scott. So it starts with The Antiquary. We get a bit of his background. We meet his life with, I think it's his sister and his niece who live with him. Doesn't have a very high view of females. There is his friend, Sir What's His Name, he's they're kind of like frenemies. They're always arguing about antiquary things, though he actually respects uh, his friend's niece as much as he respects any of womankind. But it all starts when he meets a young man when he's returning home, and this young man actually, he's got a bit of a historical bone in himself too. And of course, this sparks the antiquary's uh, interest in him. So hopefully I'll make good progress on that this week. I think that is all. So enjoying things, reading or listening to The Antiquary for Fab Regency, which is wonderful. Been greatly enjoying it. I can see how Sir Walter Scott might not be for everyone, but for those who he works really well. And I guess I am one of those because I have liked The Talisman and I loved Rob Roy and I loved Ivanhoe and I'm quite enjoying The Antiquary, even if I couldn't get through 100 pages of Waverley when I tried it the first time. I'll try listening to next time. So that's it for this week. Thank you so much for stopping by. I truly do appreciate it. So until next time, I hope we all stay safe and healthy. And as always, happy reading.